this conference title is the Quantum Frontier and the Foundation, Frontiers and the Fundamentals. Okay, right? In that one of the frontier side, that's now is a fashion, as you maybe know, this is the quite fashion about the quantum computing. Now our new center in the Keio University is the quantum computing center since this April. This is which was selected the IBM Q Hub. That means the IBM is a quantum superconducting qubit machine can freely access to from the Keio University to the IBM Q machine. If you're interested in that, this is also the Asian unique hub of this institute. Then when you want to use the IBM Q system, please ask me. It is easy to access to that IBM Q machine. And also there's another institute for the fundamental side. There's a fundamental side I'm working on Chapman University located near to Los Angeles. That's the exact location, Orange County in the California state. It's the institute name of the Institute for Quantum Study. It's a director. That's one of the guy of one of the seminal guy is Yakira Haronov and also Jeff Traxton. And now is a former partnership with the Perimeter Institute for the theoretical study. Theoretical physics, sorry, located in the Waterloo in Canada. Then it's going to do my scientific work. Today's question is the control on the optical propagation of light. Before that, the question is the fundamental side, how to determine the quantum state, unknown quantum state. This is you maybe know that very well know the answer. Quantum state tomography was executed to answer this question. Normally, that's the single qubit state tomography issue. We measure on the sigma x, sigma y, sigma z is the quantum measurement. We can take the expectation value. From the expectation value, we can estimate that's the quantum state. This is a normal standard technique of the quantum information. But it is much more intuitive. This is sort of statistical averaging can estimate the quantum state, but not directly understanding of the quantum state. It's towards a much more intuitive understanding of the quantum state. We have to do I propose one of the technique of the state visualization technique using the quantum measurement. This now is the sigma x in the operator is the polarization state is defined by here, and also is that we are calculating of the sigma x something of the value. This is written by here. This is some of the people have already known that the definition of the weak value. This is the exactly weak value to the post-selected state of the R state. If that's the case, it's given by the sigma x operating on R state is a flipping on it. It's given by slightly showing to the mass in the exponential I phi over tangent to theta over 2. If that's the psi is the pure state cases. If that's the case, how to visualize it? There's the state to visualize state of that value. How to relate it to do? This is the real part of this value we call the weak value of the sigma x, and the imaginary part of the sigma x of weak value exactly corresponds to the stereographic projection of the post-selected state in now is R. This is the orthogonal state. That means it's L. It's R. It's the stereographic projection plane to be attached. It's also the psi. It's psi point exactly proportional to the point of the real part and the imaginary part of weak value. Then, even if we can visualize it, it's a sigma x to the weak value, we can visualize this the quantum state. That's the following logic of this one. But in general, how to extra out is the weak value. This is the definition of the weak value is written here. This is some of the researchers working on that's the field has already known how to do it. Then it's historically, why is that the naming of the weak value? This is coming from it's the historical definition of coming from the weak measurement outcome is the name, that's the weak value. Then it's how to do what is that weak measurement is. This is briefly review on what is the weak measurement is. We prepare some target state, we call is the preselected state, and also some weakly interact in the probe state. Then after that, normally we are in every state we can keep this, but several post-selected states selected out some state we call this a post-selected state. Even if that's the post-selected state is true, we open to the probe state shift. This probe state shift exactly corresponding to the weak value. And that's roughly speaking. Then even when in the probe initial state is a Gaussian, if that's the case, it's also interaction Hamiltonian, that's the von Neumann type interaction. This is the standard form of the quantum measurement. If that's the case, G is a very, very small cases. It's shift of the position of the probe state. It's corresponding to the real part of weak value. And also taking the Fourier transform, the shape of the change of the Gaussian a little bit, that means. That means in the momentum shifted value, exactly corresponding to the imaginary part of the weak value. Then there's standard technique of the weak measurement in how to get there, how to extract out the weak value from the statistical averaging data of the probe state. But now the question is to be visualizing the weak value of sigma x. Now it's x and p measurement of the position and momentum do not simultaneously measure in that setup due to the anti-commutative of the position and momentum operator. Then we change the several strategy. Now we prepare a Gaussian. This is now preparing the Gaussian state is replaced to the Laguerre-Gauss mode of the state. Is one of the solution of the laser beam. It's now is the shape of this shape of that laser beam, spatial mode of the laser. We prepare just in that case, sigma x shift exactly the same to the previous one, and also y shift is a two-dimensional shift occur. This is because Laguerre-Gauss mode has the angular momentum of the right. Then, due to this kind of the angular momentum, in the y shift occurring. Then it's imaginary. Up to several approximation. That's the imaginary y shift. That's the second direction. This is not coupled to the weak interaction form of the standard von Neumann Hamiltonian. If that's the case, y shift exactly corresponds to the imaginary part of the weak value. Then, using this technique, we can visualize x and y is a commutable operator. Then we can visualize it simultaneously. We can simultaneously be measure of those two values. Then we applying on this such kind of situation. It's the experimentally also done with some state of this point is actually corresponding to that weak value using this Laguerre-Gauss mode, like this picture. This is if you're interested in much more detail, please see this is the references. Then, now that's the two-dimensional information. It can be mapped to that one imaging plane. It does now. This is the question: is another mode of this the optical mode? For example, temporary mode, spatial mode, phase and the polarization, has a lot of that variety of that optical property. But now that's the question: is three-dimensional information can be mapped to the two-dimensional information by the weak value? Is that possible? This is one of the questions of it arise in from the previous study. Then I want to try to such kind of thing. Yeah. Then I want to focusing on the imaging point control technique. That means it's a temporary mode control. We want to do that. We want to focusing on it. Normally, the imaging point control. Several objects from the emitting of the light from the back. Then thereafter some lens. In that lens after this the wavefront is this dot line. Then is the weekend imaging of the sensor, like the CCD camera, is we put in on some imaging, or is imaging is the focusing or not. If that's the moving on the sensor of the CCD, or or other part in inside the camera, this is the CCD imaging sensor is moved to several times, or the lens is also moving. It that mean this the changing of the length of between the lens and the imaging sensor. We can several times is the focusing point. The other point is the defocusing. Normally it's a mechanical control, a mechanical motion is needed, but I want to propose. It's using this lens and the imaging sensor is fixed. Distance is fixed. If that's the displacement on wavefront, we can control the imaging point. Is that a possibility or not? This is today's question of my talk. Let's try to apply the weak measurement technique in that situation. Normally, the previous I explained very briefly. Weak measurement normally normal situation like here has a polarized state of light. That's the complex inflection or several polarization-dependent to the shift of that matter. That's the case. In the H and B is relatively shifted. Thereafter taking the polarizer, it can be shifted to several part of the weak. Just the shifted value is actually corresponding to the real part of weak value normally. But now this sorry, this situation is shifted to the spatial mode shifted. It is this possible to replace to the complex inflection. Some cases of the optical delay depending on polarization. Exactly the same to that situation of this spatial mode to convert it to the temporal mode. If that's the case, in the Nicola Brunner and Christoph Simon proposed, theoretical proposed, is even if the optical delay occur, depend on the polarization. Thereafter, that's the same setup of the putting on the polarizer. That means it's a post-selection. If that's the case, this shifted value of the temporal shift corresponding to the real part weak value. Then using this technique, we want to apply to that. But yeah, this implementation optical delay of this part. Normally, Brunner and Simon propose, a theoretical propose such kind of this. This is the interferometer type of that experiment. If that's the case, this is the object here. This is the polarized beam splitter in the H and B. It's this like the polarized microson interferometer. If that's the case, mirror operating on this a little bit shifted. Thereafter, this is the dark spot in the quarter wave plates. If reflect to changing the polarization, then first one is transmitted. And the other side is reflected. Then it's every light mode can be emitted to the CCD camera. Then this taking the polarizer. That's polarization control. Optical relay control can be wavefront control can be taken in such kind of the mechanical so the microphone type is the polarized microphone interferometer. But this also this mirror should be shifted. This mirror it's a mechanically shifted needed. Now it's that we did not match our purpose. Then is that we can use it's that we replace another technique. Now is that we call that polarization directed flat lens. Now it's that this lens has a special property. It's that light polarization right. This is the convex lens, but left-handed to the polarization right. This is the concave lens. Exactly same to that the focusing length exactly same. Yeah. If that's the case, yeah. For example, this is a toy of just a toy. This is some of the image on the plate. On the taking on some PDFL, putting on it. That's some side. That's the front of a little bit front side in the defocusing, de-imaging, and also defocusing, and also some of the light-handed wave. It does another defocusing. Then this is the concave, convex and concave mirror. It does simultaneously depend on the polarization. Let's try to apply such kind of this. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Now we want to do the 4F imaging system to apply to in this situation. Now that's R and L. That's the concave mirror and the convex mirror. Then is a 4F system like this here. Is that putting on the center of the PDFF. That's I have already explained that the polarized dependent of the mirror. Polarized dependent lens. If that's the case, as slightly calculated, it's R and L, and that's depends on the polarization. Just the shifted of the wavefront. Then this shifted value exactly same to the weak measurement. In this context, it's now we are setting on the experimental parameter of this length, two lengths in the 30 focusing length in the 30 millimeter, and also PBF length in that's the 1 centimeter in the focusing length. Exactly, if that's so, we can roughly estimate it 80 millimeters differences is finally occurring on the wavefront control. Then, yep. We are trying to, okay, fine. Yeah, we are trying to the target imaging point is here, and also situation of this. We preparing the horizontal beam, horizontal polarized state. If that's the case, this system is a 4F imaging system and also the post-selected system. That's taking the post-selection. We are changing on this, the sigma y to the weak value, is that roughly speaking. This is the tangent to theta is the changing of the wave, the changing of the wave front. Then is the transmittivity of this successful probability, exactly speaking, is the cosine to theta. That's the depend on that. Is that the changing on this post-selected state. If that's the case, yeah, I can skip this. 20 micrometer imaging of the imaging of the target system is a 5. First of all, R and L only the polarized states of the right. This is the defocusing, but changing the proper post-selection to choosing, changing of the wavefront, then is the we can de-imaging of the pipe. Now that's only to change. Yep. Only to change. This is the focusing point. Sorry, focusing point in the focusing length in in front of that. If that's the case, a little bit sort of changing. Some particular that's the R state, some point of the sort of imaging. Otherwise, in the deep focusing on de-imaging point, is the L state the cases minus 0.5 millimeter. It's de-imaging. The other part is the de-imaging. But changing the proper post-selected state to choosing the different parameter. This is a properly tune of this post-selected state. If that's the case, every time it does the de-imaging of that system. And also, now it does the no mechanical shift occurring. That means it's a L and I, light circular polarized state and left circular polarized state. This is simultaneously measure orient. It's changing the polarizer, changing the post selection. We can change in the wavefront control. We can do it. And also, in coherent, now is the coherent beam cases. How about the red light LED cases, incoherent light cases? It is possible to that we have not yet used in that interferometer type of experiment. Then it is possible to do that incoherent light. Then incoherent light cases, exactly the same answer yet. This is the imaging point. The imaging point, this is changing to that's the post selection. This de-imaging. This is a beautiful experiment for us. Then let me summarize on my talk. This is now is a change in the post selection to apply to the concept of the concept of the weak measurement. Using this imaging technique, and also in the working process, we needed to develop an indicator to qualifying the imaging similarity. This is that's it. Thank you so much for your attention. Yep.
Very much. Questions?
In your these later parts of the slides, that actual implementation in the weak measurement part,
Yeah.
what is the operational criterion you use for ensuring that it is weak interaction? Means how do you ensure that you are saying that you are using weak measurement? So where is the weakness thing or any criteria, weak interaction, or how do you define?
Okay. That's now is the case. This is so that's the unitary Hamiltonian is given to here. It's exactly the same to that. That's the momentum of this. Sorry. Is that delta z is that's the same to that's change on that's the setup f and f0. That means this the focusing length. Changing the focusing length exactly corresponding to measurement strength. If that's the not to tune properly tune of that's the focusing length, this is a broken to that's this scenario.
I have an experimental question.
Yep.
I don't see exactly what type of elements is giving you a diverging length or a converging length depending on the polarization of the light.
Yeah, that's the one. Maybe on that first of all, we can eliminate that's the state of the laser. We prepare that's the light circular polarized state. We are using the polarizer. We can make it. Then after that, taking the target. Then in that the same focusing length, due to that the CCD camera length in that relatively long, then we use there. Then after that, this 4F imaging system, that means this weak measurement part, and also several part of that the polarized quarter wave plate and the half wave plate is a changing of the rotation of the half wave plate. We can tune to that half in that post-selected state. Then thereafter the CCD camera. This setup is that's fixed. It's that's the PDFL. Sorry. This is so that the what the is. That means that's the PDF file. This is the made of this. How to say? One of the sort of solar in that sort of selling out of this lens. This we found it. That's it. That's it. Why? Okay. Like the sort of and that's the like the sort of calcite. That's the several kind of this is a how to say is the changing of this using this inside the material is a like the sort of small polarized beam splitter of the polarized beam displacer. Then using on it, it's several proper type of the set of this polarized displacement. That's the we can check. We set in the sort of light circular polarized state is a concave mirror. Concave length. Sorry. Yeah, this is now is a commercial devices. Yeah.
Sure. Have you looked at the difference in the signal to noise ratio versus using just a regular lens? Does it go down with this post selection?
This is so that's the signal to noise ratio. That's the right here. This is now that's the transmittivity curve in the like here. It's normally that's the for example just the minus 30 degree of Celsius that means roughly speaking the theta value exactly corresponding to the 1 millimeter. That means it's now that's the 1/4 or not the more than to the 20%, but this is still that's a low intensity. Then this signal to noise ratio is not so good for that's the background noise ratio, but this is also that the background noise is also can be reduced as several parts, but we have not yet carefully checked it. Yeah. Thank you so much for your question.
Okay. So in this case, yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Again.
Yep.